Usually when you hear the word remodeling, you instantly brace yourself for like sledgehammers and a house just totally full of drywall dust.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And maybe, a shiny new kitchen island if you actually survive the
Exactly.
process. It's a very physical, structural thing. You tear down a wall because you need to open up the space.
Right, it's tangible. You hire a contractor, you look at a blueprint, and you basically know precisely what that end result is supposed to look like, before the first swing of the hammer.
Exactly. But when I first opened the source texts for our deep dive today, I realized we are definitely not talking about kitchens.
No, not at all.
We're exploring a concept called human remodeling.
Yeah.
And honestly, reading that phrase out of context, my mind went straight to like a dystopian sci-fi movie.
Yeah, it definitely has that vibe.
It sounds like something involving microchips or, I don't know, reprogramming people's personalities.
It is an intense phrase. But what's really fascinating is that in the context of the material we're analyzing today, it is not dystopian in the slightest. We're actually looking at a really profound, sweeping view of cosmic history, and human remodeling is framed as the ultimate, unavoidable goal for the survival of the universe.
And to understand how we get to that point, we're taking a deep dive into the historical and cosmological framework of Daishin-Jinri thought.
Mm,
For anyone unfamiliar, this stems from a relatively modern Korean spiritual movement, but the scope of its philosophy is absolutely massive.
it really is.
This text lays out an epic timeline that completely flips how we think about history, religion, and, well, human potential.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to trace this timeline, moving from an ancient age of god-kings through a turbulent era of divided religions, and finally arriving at this idea of human remodeling, where the everyday person basically holds the ultimate cosmic power.
And what stands out to me about this specific text is that it doesn't just offer an alternative timeline of historical events.
Right, it goes deeper.
Exactly. It's attempting to explain the underlying spiritual physics of why history happened the way it did. It connects the dots to show that this progression wasn't just a series of random human accidents. It
Yeah.
was an absolute cosmic necessity.
Okay, let's unpack this from the very beginning. Because to understand why humanity needs to be remodeled, we have to go way, way back.
We do.
Over 4,500 years ago, to a period the text calls the Divine Era, or Upper Antiquity.
And this era fundamentally challenges our modern understanding of leadership.
How so?
Well, according to this framework, in the divine era, humanity was ruled by figures known as divine sages.
Okay.
These weren't just clever politicians, and they weren't just, secluded spiritual gurus on a mountain.
Right, they were both.
Yes, they were a perfect, unfragmented combination of two very distinct archetypes. The sage, which represents absolute holy wisdom and enlightenment, and the hero, representing absolute political power and practical worldly leadership.
So they were basically philosopher kings,
Mhm.
but on a literal cosmic level.
Is-
The text explains that heaven gave the Tao the ultimate truth, or like the fundamental operating system of the universe, directly to these rulers.
Yes, directly to them.
And the specific historical examples the source uses to illustrate this are just wild to think about. Take Emperor Yao, for instance.
Oh, Emperor Yao is a perfect example of this sage-hero union.
Yeah.
The text credits him not just with ruling a kingdom, but with literally inventing the concept of time for humanity.
Wait, hold on. How do you just invent time?
I know it sounds crazy.
Yeah, that sounds like something straight out of mythology. I mean, what does the text actually mean by that?
Think about human existence before a structured understanding of time.
Okay.
The text describes it as a period of mere gathering. People woke up when the sun rose, they slept when it set, and they just foraged for whatever was in front of them.
So just day-to-day survival.
Right. There was no concept of seasons, no calendar, no understanding of the cycles of the earth.
Wow.
Emperor Yao, using the profound wisdom of a sage, understood the complex laws of the sun and the moon.
Right, he saw the big picture.
And then, using the practical leadership of a hero, he translated that cosmic knowledge into a structured calendar and taught it to the people. He gave humanity the seasons, which is, the absolute prerequisite for agriculture.
He gave them the rhythm of survival. That is incredible.
It is.
And then the text mentions he also created the Go board, the game of Go, which just blew my mind.
Yeah, that's a fascinating detail.
He didn't just invent it as a rainy day activity. He created it as a physical mathematical model to explain the mechanics of the universe to the people.
Exactly. It was spiritual wisdom translated into a very practical tool, and this pattern continues with other divine sages.
Like who?
Well, you have Shennong, who didn't just sit on a throne, he personally discovered agriculture and medicine.
Oh, right.
The text notes that he tasted hundreds of herbs himself to determine what was toxic and what could heal the human body.
Just putting himself on the line like that.
And the text also highlights Fuxi, right?
Yes, Fuxi is huge in this. It says he created the 8 trigrams, which is a foundational symbol in Eastern philosophy meant to explain the creation and constant changes of the universe.
Yes, and there is a very telling historical detail the source points out about Fuxi's 8 trigrams, especially if you picture the modern South Korean flag, the Taejuk.
Oh yeah, the flag with the symbols in the corners.
Right. The flag is actually based on Fuxi's original concepts, but the source notes a highly relatable shift in human behavior.
Which was?
The original 8 trigrams were so incredibly complex and demanded such deep spiritual concentration that people eventually just stopped studying them.
They just gave up.
Basically, yeah. As human society progressed, we essentially got lazy. We lost the capacity to hold that unfragmented truth.
Wow.
So today, the flag only uses 4 of the original 8 trigrams because learning all 8 was simply deemed too complicated for later generations.
That is hilarious, but also a little tragic. We just collectively decided, yeah, 4 is enough universe for us to handle.
Pretty much.
Which actually brings up a massive question I had while reading this.
Okay, what's that?
If these divine sages were so incredibly powerful, if they literally gave us the calendar, agriculture, medicine, why don't we worship them today?
That is the crucial paradox.
Right. Why aren't there massive global religions dedicated to Emperor Yao or Shennong the same way there are for later religious figures?
The source material provides a really brilliant psychological answer to this. It argues that these divine sages were actually too successful.
Too successful, what do you mean?
Yes. Their gifts, time, farming, medicine, they became so perfectly integrated into our daily survival that they simply became ordinary life.
Oh, I see.
You don't worship the person who figured out how to grow rice every single time you eat a bowl of it. You just eat the rice.
That makes total sense.
Because their immense contributions became the invisible, everyday infrastructure of human existence, and because they lived so incredibly long ago, their historical reality faded into myth.
Right.
People forgot the profound holy wisdom behind these practical gifts.
We just took it all for granted, like breathing or gravity.
Exactly.
So we have this golden age where the ruler is perfectly wise and perfectly powerful. But clearly, looking out the window today, that system didn't last. The text outlines a massive shift.
It did. As human society grew more complex and human nature began to change, becoming perhaps more selfish, more fragmented, a breaking point was reached.
The system broke.
Right. The cosmic burden simply became too great for one person. A single individual could no longer handle both absolute spiritual wisdom and absolute worldly power without being corrupted or, totally overwhelmed.
So the roles had to split. The sage and the hero basically got divorced.
Exactly. And this divorce launched humanity into a completely new, deeply fragmented age.
So if the sage and the hero are forced to split up, where does the wisdom go? It has to find a new vessel.
It does.
And according to the text, that leads directly to the religious era, or Middle Antiquity.
Hmm.
Because of this massive split, heaven had to change its strategy.
Right.
It stopped giving the Tao, the ultimate truth, to kings and emperors. Instead, it started giving it to teachers.
This is the era of the Great Schism. This is when the famous religious founders that we are all familiar with appeared on the world stage.
Right, like the big names.
And the text notes, they appeared on a roughly 500-year cycle. You have Buddha, Confucius, Jesus, and later figures.
Wow.
Heaven was essentially sending the Tao through specialized educators because the political leaders could no longer be trusted to hold it.
The text brought up these very specific zodiac connections for these religious founders, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, it's a really unique detail.
Buddha in the year of the ox, Jesus in the year of the rooster.
But why does this spiritual framework care about their zodiac signs? Is it just trivia?
Not at all. In this thought system, history operates on a highly precise spiritual clock.
Okay.
Heaven dispatched these specific teachers at exact astrological moments because those specific cosmic energies were required for the era.
The text argues that Buddha being born in the year of the ox is why ox symbolism, like the famous 10 bowls of Zen, is so prevalent in Buddhism.
Oh, wow.
The ox represents the slow, enduring, methodical, spiritual plowing needed at that time.
That makes a lot of sense. And it mentions Confucius was born in the year of the dog, noting he was historically mocked as a dog of a house in mourning, like a wanderer seeking a master to serve.
Yes, and then it gives a detail that might surprise a lot of Western listeners. It states, Jesus was born in the year of the rooster.
The rooster, right.
In this framework, the rooster symbolizes the one who cries out in the darkness to announce the coming dawn, waking people up.
Right.
The text claims this astrological reality is the true hidden reason why, historically, you see rooster weather vanes perched on top of old church steeples all across Europe.
That is an amazing connection to draw across global traditions. But even with these incredible teachers, this era carried a fatal flaw, didn't it?
It did.
Because the sage and the hero are now separated.
That is the core tragedy of the religious era. The teachers have the profound wisdom, but they do not have the practical, worldly power.
Right.
And more importantly, their followers quickly forgot the divine era that preceded them.
Reading this section, I kept thinking about that old parable of the blind man and the elephant.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Each blind man touches a different part of the elephant, the trunk, the leg, the tail,
Mhm.
and argues vehemently that their specific part is the complete truth of the animal.
Exactly.
In this religious era, each religion grabbed one piece of the ultimate truth, the Tao. But because they forgot the original unified whole of the divine era, they all began to claim that their specific piece was the only truth.
That is a perfect analogy. The word religion itself comes from the Latin religare, meaning to rebind or reunite.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yet what actually happens, religions end up fighting. The transcript uses a brilliant metaphor for this. It says it's like the seasons arguing with each other.
The season.
Yeah, it is like spring violently arguing with summer over who is the true year. Spring says, I am the year, you must follow my rules. Summer says, no, I am the year.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
When in reality, they are just necessary, different phases of a single unified cycle.
But the text argues there's an even darker consequence to this split. We have these beautiful, profound teachings of love and wisdom from the sages, but their followers are fighting.
Yes.
Meanwhile, if the teachers have the wisdom but no power, who have the power?
The heroes, but they are now heroes completely devoid of the sage's wisdom.
And this is where the historical view gets incredibly grim. When political power is completely severed from spiritual enlightenment, you get conquerors. You get tyrants.
The text specifically points to figures like Genghis Khan, Qin Shi Huang, and Napoleon.
Right.
These are individuals with immense worldly ambition, strategic brilliance, and absolute power, but they possess zero spiritual restraint. They are unbalanced.
And the result of that imbalance, according to this framework, was endless war and massacre. Millions of innocent people were crushed under the ambitions of these unbalanced leaders.
Exactly.
But the text makes a point that this wasn't just a physical historical tragedy, it created a literal cosmic crisis.
Right.
It introduces a concept called wangi. What exactly is that?
So wangi translates roughly to the grudges or the resentful energy of the unjustly killed.
Okay.
In this spiritual physics, when someone dies a horrific, unjust death, their profound resentment doesn't just vanish into the ether, it accumulates.
Like a spiritual atmospheric pressure.
Exactly. To use a modern analogy, imagine the universe is an intricate mechanical engine.
Okay.
Every time a tyrant massacres innocents, every time a religious war destroys a community, it creates wangi. This wangi is like carbon buildup in the engine.
Oh, man.
For thousands of years, warfare, oppression, and dogmatic violence have been dumping this carbon into the system. Eventually, the universe became literally clogged with these grudges. It became too heavy with human sorrow and arrogant materialism.
So the engine is basically choking.
The engine is actively failing. The religious era, despite the beautiful, enlightened teachings of its founders, was ultimately failing because of this fragmentation and the unchecked brutality of the power-hungry.
Right.
A cosmic breaking point was reached, and a system reset was absolutely required.
But here's the text points out. You can't just scrap the engine.
No, you can't.
A universe without humans is no universe at all. Humanity couldn't just be discarded and replaced. Humanity itself had to be fixed.
Exactly.
And that brings us to the core of our deep dive today. To save the universe, the strategy shifts a third and final time, entering what the text calls the era of human dignity. And the mechanism for this human remodeling.
In this new era, the Tao no longer descends to kings, as it did in the divine era,
Okay.
and it no longer descends to specialized teachers, as it did in the religious era. In the era of human dignity, the Tao descends directly to the common people.
That is a massive democratization of cosmic truth.
It really is.
The text explicitly says that a person can now receive the Tao right in their own living room.
Yes.
You don't need to be an emperor ruling a nation, and you don't need to be a monk isolated on a mountain for decades. The ultimate truth is available to you exactly where you are.
But the goal of having this truth has also radically shifted. It is no longer just about achieving personal spiritual enlightenment in a vacuum.
Okay, what is the goal then?
The goal is what the text calls Dotong mastery of the Tao. The source points out that while the ancient divine sages mastered the laws of heaven and earth, they ultimately failed to master human affairs.
Which is why society fractured in the first place.
Exactly. Therefore, the ultimate goal of this new era is mastering human affairs. It is about practically applying this profound, unified truth to everyday life to resolve conflicts and actually clear out those accumulated grudges that Wanji...
Wait, hold on. This sounds incredible, but I have to stop at this phrase, human remodeling.
I know, it's a lot.
Even knowing the context, it still sounds a bit like, well, brainwashing. Like stripping away our individuality to make us perfect little cosmic citizens. What does this remodeling actually entail?
It is a vital distinction to make. The text makes it very clear that this is not about coercion or erasing individuality.
Okay.
It is a spiritual, ethical, and profound psychological upgrading. It is an expansion of capacity.
Expanding capacity, okay.
The source material uses a very grounded maternal metaphor to explain this difficult transition. It compares the end of the religious era to a mother nursing a baby. Eventually, for the baby to survive and grow, it has to eat solid food.
Right, the text mentions a mother putting something bitter on her chest to, force the baby to wean.
Exactly. From the baby's perspective, this is a tragedy. The baby cries, it feels betrayed, it doesn't understand why the comforting milk is gone.
It just knows it's upset.
But the mother knows it is an absolute necessity for the child's development. Humanity, according to this text, has been nursing on the tribalism and the dependency of the religious era.
We've been babied.
Right. We relied on kings to rule us. Then we relied on teachers to tell us how to pray. We have to be remodeled so that we can handle the immense responsibility of carrying the Tao ourselves.
Wow.
We're being forced to grow up, to stop fighting like spring and summer, and to integrate all these fragmented truths back into one whole.
It is about expanding our capacity so we don't drop the complex truth like we did with the 8 trigrams.
Yeah.
We have to be able to hold the whole flag again.
Precisely. It requires a fundamentally different type of human being. A remodeled human is one who holds both the wisdom of the sage and the practical worldly action of the hero within their own daily life.
Okay, let's ground this a bit. What does a rewatered human actually look like on, say, a random Tuesday morning?
Good question.
Because mastering cosmic affairs in my living room sounds great, but I still have to, pay rent and deal with traffic.
Let's use a very mundane example. Let's say you are in a tense meeting with a deeply toxic boss.
Oh, I think we've all been there.
Right. A traditional response, the unremodeled response, might be to react with ego, to fight back, creating more resentment. Or perhaps to just passively endure it and vent your anger later.
Yeah, just internalize it.
Both of those reactions generate new wongi, new grudges, dumping more carbon into the cosmic engine.
Oh, I see.
But a remodeled human recognizes the spiritual weight of that moment.
Okay.
Instead of retreating to a mountaintop to meditate away the anger, they stay right there in the conference room. They use the wisdom of the sage to truly understand the root of the conflict, seeing past their own ego.
Right.
And then they use the practical action of the hero to de-escalate, communicate effectively, and resolve the tension. They master the human affair in real time.
That's powerful.
By doing that, they don't just improve their Tuesday. On a microscopic level, they are actively clearing the grudges of the universe.
That makes so much sense. It takes this massive, sweeping cosmological history and places the ultimate responsibility squarely on our shoulders today.
It really does.
The text suggests that we are currently living in the messy, difficult transition into this era of human dignity. The democratization of the Tao means that you can't pass the buck to a politician or a priest anymore.
No, you can't.
You are responsible for mastering human affairs in your own life.
It is an incredibly empowering but heavily demanding view of human potential.
Yeah.
It is a call to move past the narrow confines of claiming your piece of the elephant is the only piece. The universe literally depends on everyday people stepping up to clear the historical grudges through ethical, unified living.
To briefly recount this epic journey we've taken today, we started with the Tao resting in the hands of a few god kings who were so profoundly capable they literally invented time, only to be forgotten as myth.
Right.
Then, because human nature fractured, the Tao went to spiritual teachers whose followers ultimately forgot the past, fractured the world into competing religions, and allowed power-hungry conquerors to fill the universe with the tragic weight of accumulated grudges.
And finally, we arrive at the present transition.
The era we're in now.
Yes, the cosmic engine is choking. A system reset is underway. The ultimate truth has been handed to the common people, and we must undergo a spiritual and ethical remodeling to hold the Tao ourselves and heal a broken cosmos.
It completely reframes how you look at history and, more importantly, how you look at your own daily interactions.
Absolutely.
Which brings me back to where we started. We usually think of remodeling as taking a sledgehammer to drywall to make a house function better for us.
But this text flips that entirely. It suggests the universe is taking a metaphorical sledgehammer to our fragmented, tribal ways of thinking to make us function better for the cosmos.
So I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something to explore on your own that builds on everything we've talked about today.
Okay.
If the grand timeline of the universe has shifted, and the ultimate cosmic truth is no longer hidden in palaces or ancient temples, but is waiting in your own living room to be applied to your daily human affairs, if you are the one holding the hammer now, what is the first thing in your own life you would choose to remodel?